Are we live?
Hello, everyone. This is Misha Houston. Welcome to my channel. Tonight we are going forward with our late night live stream of Game of Thrones. Tonight, the chapter that we're doing is Tyrion 3. Tyrion 3, A Game of Thrones, where he is at the wall, visiting the wall, meeting with all of the commanders and the members of the Night's Watch. Um, Ladies first, Jennifer, would you like to make your intro?
Sure,
Unmute your microphone. There
I
you go.
got it. Hey y'all, it's Jen again, back again for Tyrion 3. Just I hope everybody enjoys the chat.
Okay, Sarah, would you like to do your introduction? Please unmute your microphone.
I will on my blah 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 blah. I
Yeah,
will
there
be
you
so
go.
articulate. It'll be unreal. Thank you for having me. That's really all I have to say. Let's do it. Tyrion 3.
Okay, gentlemen, we have a special guest here tonight. Bloodware. Thank you so
Stop!
much,
It's me,
Bloodware.
Blood!
Would you like to hype your anything, something that you would like to hype, something in your business or in your
Yeah,
personal
you can
life
just
or
touch
something?
my... You can touch like my little icon in the chat. It's my YouTube channel. Tomorrow I'm releasing my Melisandre video,
Hmm.
and that's it.
Okay.
Don't wait anything normal. I'm pretty not normal in the typical way I do it.
No one ever is. That's
No,
not
it's just
true.
I go completely break even the type of series it is from fantasy to sci-fi, and I like. But you guys heard that before, so we're just waiting
We'll
for
get into
Bran.
it.
Bran, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, Brand the Builder. You can find me on Amino, Brand the Builder. Actually, it's Brand the Blasphemous Builder. Vocalizer Network with Justin Thomas. I have my blog there. Twitter, Brand the Builder 1. And pretty much any other social media you can find. So I'm there. I'm always
Uh,
obsessing, so come find me.
and what about you, Tony?
Tony Umber, same thing. Bran, you can find me on Twitter mostly. I tend not to mess with Facebook too much because it reminds me too much of the high school days. It's a little catty, but yeah, you can find me on there too if you really want to. But other than that, I'm mostly on Twitter talking shit. So.
And I am Misha Houston, and you can find me on YouTube under Misha Houston. You can find me on Facebook under Misha Houston. You can find me on Instagram under Misha_Houston, and you can find me on the Capcom Fighters Network under Misha 3700. Tonight we are doing Tyrion 3. Bran, this is your night. Bran, so
Yeah.
would you like to get started?
Okay,
Articulate.
yeah. Just a quick. Do I now?
Bran,
Go
just
ahead.
articulate.
Okay. Just a quick overview of what happened through the chapter. First, we open up with Tyrion. He's there at the Night's at the wall. He's sitting there eating crabs with Alistair Thorne and Jeremy Riker, Mormont, the whole leading crew there. And he busts a few jokes on Alistair and pisses him off. He takes off. You know, you really get to hear Mormont explain to Tyrion that they need the people out there at the Watch. That the Watch is a dying group there. Then when Tyrion leaves
Bran,
Mormont, he
Bran, may I
he
stop you right there?
what's up?
So when do we do the comments? After you finish or in between it?
Yeah, let me
Let's
finish the
yeah,
overview real quick. I mean,
yeah.
it's just a quick run through of what happens after he leaves. Mormont, on a whim, he decides to go up on top of the wall, look one more time. When he gets up there, he sees John, and they have a little chit chat, and that's where the chapter actually ends. I mean, it's a real quick chapter. You don't get a whole lot of action or plot or anything, but it's more just Tyrion and Mormont and John kind of seeing the dynamics there. You get a little bit of Maester Aemon, and you can kind of get to see the prickly asshole that Alistair Thorne is. So, really, that's about pretty much the entire chapter. I mean, there's really not a whole lot of a lot of action going on. So, I guess anybody else have anything to weigh in on the chapter?
Yeah, me.
Go ahead, Bloodware.
Well, yeah, I was noticing that when Mormon was talking about the watch, he talked about people, mountain clans from the Frostfangs in the mountains, passing over the Shadow Tower and passing south of the wall, which is interesting as we continue to hear to the story, people going under, over, or past the wall without having to bring it down. And the same line, we hear of White Walkers in the coast of Eastwatch. So it just made me wonder what's going on with that, and what's going on with Mormont, with the white that tried to kill Mormont.
Yeah, that's.
Well, we'll get to that part here later. Sorry, go ahead, Misha.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Apparently there are holes and tunnels that are running through the wall that can help people bypass it instead of going over it or going around it. Apparently there are places, certain places and certain locations where you can bypass the wall. The wildlings are making it past the wall. Mormont said that they were running. They're running from something. What are they running from? Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to point out Garen at the very first chapter, prologue. He made it past the wall and nobody knew.
Right.
So,
yeah, and then if you look over at like where the Shadow Tower is and like what the West Watch, like they have the Bridge of Skulls or Bridge of Bones, whatever the hell it's called, and it's literally like a ice bridge that bypasses the one end of the wall. And that's the one thing I didn't really like about the show, how they kept out all these extra things. Like I thought it would be really good, the scene they had where Sam and Bran meet in the show, like, and they had that scene from the book where they have the Night Fort and they have that Weirwood tunnel where you only a man of the Night's Watch, you read out the oath and it would open up and then you'd be able to go through. Like I think they really did a disservice to the book by not including these other access points to the wall, because there's a lot to that wall, and in the show it makes it just seem like a block of ice. And especially like I really did like the part, I really, a lot of people didn't, but I liked the part where the Night King kind of brought down the wall. But I think it would have had more of an impact if there was more what they have in the book, when it comes to the wall and the access points. Like you hear about the old mythology and the stories about how these wildlings that like tunneled through the wall and they were like buried inside, like all that little things like that. And like a lot of the theories that there's like weirwood roots that are woven inside the wall. Like there's a lot of magic involved in that wall. It isn't just a sheet of ice, and the show really does it a disservice, I think.
Go ahead, Sarah.
I was gonna say Goran's children. Is it Goran and his children? That's all.
Yeah, they still hear him inside. Yeah.
I was going to mention, the thing about the magic in the wall, when you really analyze it, things with like the magic in the story, it is that, like for example, with Orel's eagle, we know that the eagle kind of goes into flame when it tries to pass the wall, and John cannot feel ghosts, so it's probably more telepathic barriers to stop wards or any type of control thing that is made into the wall. But I don't know if it's like the wall itself is a satellite for that barrier, or the barrier is just around there, which makes me wonder how the others going to cross over land.
Well, I mean, I have a theory about how they're gonna make it across, but I think that's for another time. But and the theory is that I think they're gonna walk across. I think they're gonna walk across when the seas freeze.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Misha. I think when the winter hits hard, like it's starting to hit in the book and show that at least the harbor of what is on the edge of the walls is gonna freeze. Like I have a sister that lives in Boston, and the Boston Harbor freezes like it's nothing. So like you don't need much of a landmass to freeze, you know, to bring them people across. And like I think that's what George R. R. Martin does a good job at. He makes us focus on things that are relevant to what's going on.
Sleight of hand.
I mean,
Yup, and then he slides it in the back door. Shit, you're not even paying attention to.
I was saying during that.
Go ahead, Bloodware, and then Bran can do his overview.
Yeah, so as I was saying, during John's time with the wildlings, we hear of him going with Ygritte to the cave. Now that cave is probably connected also in the caves under the wall, which makes me think: how did the humans survive the long night?
How did they survive? I have no idea. And I mean, it's only a theory. I mean, it's only theories now. When we talk about the long night, I have no earthly idea. I wish that I could have a clearer picture.
Well,
but
the blog I'll be releasing is Decoding the Long Night. That'll be the part 1 of a big 3-part series that I'm doing. So I wanted to get it done today because in one of the, which I'll bring up here in a second, it parallels something that is said. A couple of things, right at the, Tyrion says something about taking the black. I mean, is that foreshadowing that Tyrion may end up at the Night's Watch or not? You know, there's something that could be open for discussion. When Tyrion talks about having steel in his hand to fight Alistair, you know, it's a mocking joke, but is that foreshadowing of Tyrion fighting, or is it foreshadowing his trial by combat and winning with Bran? Because at the end he's saying, the victorious takes his Sir Alistair his spoils of the crabs. But I mean, it could be foreshadowing of him surviving the trial by combat with Bran. Let's see what. Go ahead.
I do like the like whenever like Alistair Thorne is brought up in any of these like POVs, it shows like, like with Jon, like we all know like Alistair Thorne is at the wall for pretty much, backing the Targaryens in the Robert's Rebellion.
Right.
Even though like the Lannisters came in at the end, like Tyrion represents everything to Alistair that didn't go right for the choices he made in that rebellion. So like, even though Tyrion can be a smartass and he's got a big mouth, that I think it's like, all right, this is what was the outcome of your choice to backing the wrong side. And that would make anybody, like be pissy. You got this little like how he first saw him as a half man talking shit to him. And he knows really he can't do much to him. He calls him out, tells him to go to the yard, but damn well he ain't going to the yard. And it's like, even if that was to happen, do you think because you're at the wall, Tom Lannister's can't reach you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's all talk to me, like with Alistair Thorne. Like he lets out a lot of aggression with Jon, Tyrion, and you can tell a lot of it has to do with that. Like with Alistair, and we talked about a couple weeks ago with Jon. A lot of his aggression and the way he acts towards Jon is his feelings, I think, in my opinion, towards Ned. You know what I mean? Especially when Ned gets killed. When Ned gets killed, he lets Jon have it. Like he can't. He loves to be able to let Jon have to soak in that every day about how his dad was a traitor, even though he probably knows himself. Everybody knows Ned Stark ain't a traitor. He loves to be able to have that little bit of ammo to mess with Jon.
Nice assessment. Go ahead, Blood.
Yeah, I was saying that some people do believe that it's a traitor. Mostly Lannister Bannerman.
Right, yeah. Okay.
Oh, Tyrell Bannerman.
Next, this actually means anything or if I'm just reading too much into it, but I noticed the whole the crabs came from Eastwatch and stuff, and it just reminded the crabs. Yeah,
crabs in the belly.
Yeah.
I was saying I could hear you really well.
They came from me of patch face. Not what it is. I have for crabs. All the servants under the sea that I can't remember exactly what it says, but it says that all the servants were crabs, and it made me just kind of it hit me as the barrel packed with snow and crabs, kind of like Jon Snow leading them, and the followers being the crabs. You know, it just. I'm probably reading too much into it, but it just it hit me as.
Nah,
it just
dude,
reminded me.
I fully agree. There is something with Patchface. He is too prophetic, and like a lot of the stuff he said is either came true already or it makes a lot of sense going into the story. There's no reason for George R. R. Martin to have this dude, you know, that he was the only survivor washed up from Stefan Baratheon and you know Robert Stannis and Renly's parents, and then he runs around saying nothing but prophetic stuff. Like everything he either says either happened or you can tell is will do. Yeah, so it's like there's no reason to put somebody like that in there unless it's like a straight red herring to keep us focused on something that doesn't mean anything, which is a big possibility. But he has a lot of pathetic things that he says that end up, making a lot of sense or happen to lead into things that are going to make sense. And I don't see another reason to have so much spotlight on him.
Oh yes, I'm on the Patchface website here, and it says the shadows come to dance, my lord. That's certainly something from Melisandre. There's another one here that says, under the sea, the old fish eats the young fish. I mean, Varys says something like that as well. The big fish eats the little fish, and I keep on paddling.
Misha.
Yes.
As I was saying, the problem with Patchface and Melisandre is that they're just ranting random things that could mean 101 thing. So even as you tend to take it as something that means prophecy. But you don't know what they actually meant. That's the whole point,
though.
Everything,
everything's so broadly described, it could fit anything. That's why you got the Azor Ahai prophecy. All the prophecies are written to be in a broad stroke, so multiple things can fit.
And I trust Patchface more than I trust Melisandre. Like Melisandre, I really do. I think she can read the flames or not, but she doesn't know how to interpret them. Like Patchface has this like simpleness to him that like it isn't like he's trying to solve anything. It's whatever is put in his mind that's having him say these things. You know what I mean? It's not like he's going out seeking these things. Melisandre's literally going out thinking that
there's no interpretation.
Yeah, exactly. So like with Patchface, the more simple he is what makes me more believable of what he says. Like Melisandre is actually trying to come up with these things, and she's interpreting her flames wrong.
Yeah, she does interpret.
I think it's bullshit.
Hold on, Blood. Go ahead, Misha.
Yes, she does interpret her visions wrong. All of them are wrong, in my opinion. You're absolutely right. Even though there's truth in what she sees, she doesn't interpret it correctly.
Right. And you start to realize that in Dance when it gets to Jon. And like that one that sticks out is where she looks for any sign of Azor Ahai, and all she sees is snow, and it's a capital snow. Like there wouldn't be, it's starting to point at Jon. And there's a reason why they do that. Because Stannis, I don't understand about her that would make her think that Stannis of all people. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
There's their own misinterpretation.
Well, I believe everything in prophecy is bullshit, but
let me.
It's just that McCord has one impressionable that's really good prophecy. He could have caused the wind. He could have caused the storm. And two, a lot of those are really bad. Tyrion has one that's good, and somehow Ramsay also has that same dream. It's like Bran has no predictions of the future and no prophecy. That's actually really dubious.
Well, I don't want to say that the prophecy is complete and utter BS, because I think Bran proved a few
Got it.
chapters ago, that he has the gift of the prophecy. And so does Dany when she goes into the house of the undying. And so does Passphrase. I mean, the only reason why I think that Melisandre is a little janky with some stuff is because she's not interpreting it correctly. But those dreams and those prophetic prophecies do mean something. I do believe it.
Yeah, she sees the guy in the wood, and the kid with the head with the wolf. I mean, you can't deny that that's Bloodraven and Bran. I mean, she is seeing things. She just is interpreting them wrong. I mean, you can't deny visions.
The prophecy is not. The visions exist, but they're all bullshit, and they're not actually prophecy, but just manipulation.
Well,
And I mean, to predict basically, for example, Maggie the Frog's prophecy about Cersei being queen is really easy to predict. Mostly if you see the political calculus going around.
Well, at the same time, you got to think that's 20 years beforehand. How would she have known that she was going to be queen?
Tywin
and how would she know? How would she know? My argument to that is the numbers, the number of children. How would she have known that Robert was going to have 16 bastards where Cersei only had 3? How would she know those exact numbers? If it would have been like 4 or 3, but 16 is a crazy amount of kids.
Yeah.
I mean, to get that on
the problem is Cersei chose to have 3 kids, and she decided to kill Melara. And Masters of War, we only have seen like 5 or 6. We haven't seen 16. So we don't know if he had 16 or more.
Yeah, he had 16. It's in the books.
Yes.
I mean, if you go look at the family tree, even it'll show 16. The numbers.
We only have seen 5. We only have seen 5 or 6. Edric Storm, Gendry, the girl from Stony Sept, and Maya Stone. We only seen like 4 or 5.
Go look at the family tree. It says 9 unnamed. It says 9 unnamed on the family tree.
Yeah, that's true.
I've looked at it. That's why I argue the numbers are exact because it's shown to us that they are. I mean, it's
maybe they are.
There is
a red herring.
It could be. I mean, I'm not saying any of this is set in stone. I mean, it could all be just us interpreting it wrong. I mean, that's why I don't like to disagree with anybody or tell them they're wrong. I mean, I may have my own views, they have theirs, but I don't say anybody's wrong. Unless you think Tyrion's a time-traveling fetus. Then I'll tell you you're wrong.
Oh, God.
Anyway. Oh, next thing I've noticed. Who says that? The old bear, when discussing with Tyrion, he even says that I've seen dark shapes in my dreams. First off, why is Mormont having these prophetic dreams, for one, but he also associates the darkness with the others. I mean, you're already getting that duality of light and dark, the others being the bad guys, then there's this other light side. I mean, he's already saying the darkness is coming from the north. The darkness is associated with the others already, even before we meet Melisandre.
Apocalypse coming. It can be Euron. It can be the Shadow Lord and the Apocalypse of Plague.
It says from the north, though. That's why.
Yeah, but he can be completely wrong. I mean, he's right, but his people are just manipulating him.
But I'm not going to sit here and say what the text says is wrong. I mean, the text to me is right.
That's it's right, but I see there's a lot of manipulation going with those dreams.
Yeah. Sarah, what's your take on it? What's something you thought or noticed?
Sure. So one of the things I took away from the chapter is how Tyrion is so dismissive, I'll say. I think I didn't write it down. It's not a direct quote, but I think Mormont says that, there's tales of White Walkers coming from Eastwatch, or the Fisher folk are reporting White Walkers. Yep. And he says, oh, well, there's Fisher folk in Lannisport that see mermen, and it's just kind of dismissed. It's a joke. But by the end of the chapter, you see him talking to Jon, and Jon is saying, I'm going to go north. I'm going to go find my uncle. And then Tyrion is secretly thinking, and who's going to go looking for you? So he's sort of starting to understand that this is actually like, there is something very otherworldly happening up here. But at the
No,
you know,
but
we see in
the
the
appearance of Benji could have been that man probably just killed him. Man really
I'm
seems to be
sorry?
working. What I was saying, the thing with Benji being disappeared, it can just be that man's really just working to weaken the Night's Watch. That's why he put the trap for Corin Halfhand, and that's why he probably killed Benjen as well. He's trying to kill the best rangers in the Watch.
Yeah,
And that's probably why
Jen,
Tyrion
what's your
might kill
take on
someone
it?
with a Y.
Jennifer, do you have an opinion on this?
I don't. I'm going to just listen and really watch the chat well tonight. Y'all go ahead. I
Well-
just same thing. You know, I don't have any big theories for y'all or anything like that. I did notice some things, you know, in italics or whatever. I'll pipe in if I have anything to say. Y'all go ahead. I'm watching.
Any cool comment?
Right.
Well, if you keep an eye on the chat, let us know if anything awesome said in there or any comments or whatever.
Absolutely.
I wanted to give out a little shout out on Twitter because one of the Game of Thrones channels had liked and retweeted what I put out for this live stream, and they got like 93,000 followers. I don't know how they seen what I put out, but I mean it's a big shout out, so I appreciate it, whoever it is. It's not the official Game of Thrones site, but they got 93,000 followers, so.
Shout out to Cammy and to Septa, Shayna, and Stacy and Jules for being in the chat. Just by the way.
Yes, thank you so much for joining the chat tonight. There was maybe I think one part that stood out for me. It was about Tyrion as he was walking, and it was pretty much the same things that you were saying, that he's starting to realize that things are not as safe and as good as they could be on the wall. I mean, he also realized it in, what's the name of that book? A Clash of Kings. When he was acting as the hand of the king, sitting on the throne, talking to the people from the wall. And he even started to realize, you know, how serious this is. And I think he will be the only one who will pay any kind of attention to it. I think he's going to be a part of it at the end. I mean,
every decision taken by Tyrion in A Clash of Kings, you have to think about who's manipulating him in that book. Every decision Tyrion makes is completely stupid, as it completely kills the Lannisters at the end. He was people like Jocelyn by Warren come out of the City Watch because the Bears. He was working for the Aegon cause.
Working for the who?
Aegon cause.
The
Golden Company.
Cause. Oh, okay. The Golden Company. Okay, yeah, okay. I honestly didn't know that. I didn't know that they were working for them.
Who now?
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of like
cronies.
big picture observations happening. I'm sorry.
What was that, Sarah?
I think there's like a lot of big picture observations happening. Like, I guess I'm just, if we're focusing on the chapter specifically or just kind of talking general theories.
We usually start, you know, focused on the chapter, but then it relates to bigger things.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I there's one thing in the chapter that I liked. Can I go there?
Yeah, go for it.
Start talking about who's manipulating who on a global level. All right. It's the idea of Tyrion as a large man or a giant. Yeah, so I think, is it at I can't remember which book. Which book is it that Markio says like a small man can cast a very large shadow?
Well, that was like the first John chapter. It says it. This is at least the second giant reference to Tyrion.
Well, Markio, I think, doesn't show up until...
Giant comes back in a Storm of Swords.
Is it...
In Shade of Tyrion.
Oh, my giant. You're right. Yeah, so there's a quote. It's as Riker filled it for him, Bone Marsh said, "You have a great thirst for a small man." Oh, I think that Lord Tyrion is quite a large man, Maester Aemon said.
Maester
From
Aemon.
afar. Yeah, he spoke softly, yet the high officers of the Night's Watch all fell quiet, the better to hear what the ancient had to say. I think he's a giant come among us here at the end of the world.
And that's another
I mean,
prophetic
that phrase of
person
the
who.
giant is interesting. As why does she references so much on her when she's talking to Tyrion? Why does she reference my giant thing?
Well,
Which makes me think that someone
irony,
told her
he's
about
very
it.
short.
No, but I mean, if my theory about Jay is right, her and Alistair Thorne are working for the same guy as Bran is. They're all pairs as cronies.
Go ahead, Sarah.
One of the thoughts I had whenever I hear of a giant, I think of. I'm a very big Sansa fan, and there's the ghost of High Heart who says, "I dreamed of a maid with serpents in her hair who slays a giant." Like, I sort of believe that's going to be Littlefinger, and then the show kind of makes me believe it's going to be Littlefinger. But whenever I read a reference to Tyrion as a giant, I'm like, maybe she's going to kill Tyrion, or maybe it's something else altogether. I don't know. Maybe I'm patch-faced right now. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it could also mean that she'd be killing Sweet Robin.
Yeah, that I was gonna say the same thing. Like, it's the thing like where you got the it to me like it refers to like when you got like a biker and they call them tiny but they're 450 pounds. Like it's that same kind of thing. Like how you look at Tyrion, and the same thing with like Littlefinger. He's referred to as Littlefinger. You know what I mean? So it's like it has that thing where you're going to refer to him as a giant, and I understand like what Sarah was saying. Like it's hard to me that like I'm like half and half when it comes to Sansa with the slaying the giant thing. Like I either look at it as it's like Littlefinger, or Tyrion, and like Tyrion is referred to as like a lot of times where like a small man casts a big shadow, and like I don't know, like I think
says my giant of Lannister, my giant.
Right.
Yeah, that's the thing. How does Shane knows the reference about a giant? I mean, both Sir Alistair and her used the same reference, and when you see how Tyrion ends up
Actually,
Shane, it's through Bran, and he only means Bran through Joran.
I think Shay is just saying that as it's almost a jest, but it's to make him feel good because he's obviously a dwarf. Obviously people have been saying that over and over and over. And for somebody to come in and say, "Oh, well, you're my giant," it's to put him up on a pedestal, to make him feel special.
Yeah, I know. It's basically manipulation. It's manipulation 101. But who's she manipulating Tyrion for?
Well, she certainly was doing it for herself. I mean, she needed the money. I mean,
but she probably is working with someone.
Yeah.
Probably, as we know, that sex is a really good way of manipulating people to do things.
Oh, excuse me.
I mean, that's basically Cersei in Ariana's 101 trick for manipulating people.
Yep.
Okay.
Where are we at?
Where we at?
Go
ahead, Bran.
Let's reconsider.
Go ahead, Bran.
I'm trying to find my notes here. Let's see, what else do I got? Well, the only other thing is that I've got wrote down here is the reference to the second wall. That'll be a big part of the blog I'll be putting out. Like I said, I wanted to get it out before this stream so I could reference it, but there, in my opinion, there is a second wall, or there was a second wall, and I'll link the blog in the comments when we're done, when I get it published.
Yes, it was about the Wall of Night.
Yeah, that's what it said. It paralleled the ice wall there, and that it did refer to it as a night wall kind of thing. But it's talking about the trees that they don't cut down the Night's Watch, or that they normally keep cut down for like half a mile or whatever from the wall to spot people. But they describe the trees as a wall, and I think that is a reference to an actual wall that was there before. Like I said, I'll have it in my blog.
I
so
mean,
that'll explain
those
all that.
things are interesting for one reason. Oh, yeah. God damn it. I mean, the trees are
Go
interesting
ahead.
for one reason. That basically they remind me of the I think it's the Griffin Reborn chapter. That's basically how Griffin Roost is taken by the Golden Company, is through trees by hiding.
Yes, it's a
What-
very good
So
resource.
probably someone
The
wildlings,
hamlet.
probably the Weeper who's out of our story is going to take Castle Black thanks to those trees.
If I'm not mistaken, wasn't there I don't know if it was the Mayor King or what, wasn't there somebody that was trying to commission an actual wall that was even further up?
Yeah, it was the
Uh,
Mad King.
Well,
I think King Ares did talk
there-
about.
Yeah, I mean one of his mad rantings or whatever, but
well,
I just couldn't remember
My-
if there was somebody who said that.
my theory is there was a wall built and then it was destroyed, and now this wall is the remnants, but it was so long ago in history that nobody really remembers it, or there were so few witnesses.
Bran, may
Yeah.
I enter? Probably wasn't a second wall. The thing is, we don't know how the Night's Watch originated. If I had to say, they're probably survivors of the Long Night from some type of core that existed before, genetical engineers that were to fight others or whatever the others are, and the children are, who survive under the tunnels, in the tunnels. That's how they survived the
Yeah.
cold and radiation.
It's
Yeah,
it's hard to slow down a little bit. Okay, I got the genetic engineering of the others. What
Oh
now?
yeah, in the origins of the Night's Watch. See, the
So-
thing is,
What were you saying? They genetically engineered the others? The Night's Watch?
no, the Night's Watch are probably remnants of some type of core that existed to fight the other. Say genetical engineers from the Thousand World
Oh.
or some new thing that
Gotcha,
were
gotcha,
used
gotcha.
there to fight whatever the others and the children of the forest are, and whatever the
Gotcha.
giants are.
Okay.
Like it makes sense though what you're saying, Brand, about like there being like either an original wall. Because if you think back, like, because you look at a lot of stories, like I was talking to Sarah
Dude,
about how the floor
When I lay it out for you, you'll see exactly what I mean. It makes
Right.
perfect sense.
and like if you look
Right.
at like certain tales, like when
Hold on,
me
Blood.
and Sarah were talking about like Florian and Jocko, like Florian the Fool and Jocko, and then it's supposed to be a first men tale of a knight, but that don't even make any sense because the first men didn't have knights. And if you look
Right.
back at the first men period, they didn't keep good record. Like before the Andals came, they had rune stones. Like if you look at like Fist of the First Men, there's rune stones, and that's like their telling of history. So anything before the Andals and the Faith of Seven, where they were like documenting shit, like anything is possible. That's what like I love about like
No, and the
before
thing is,
Andals,
even after that, the Andals were so goddamn biased that you don't even know if they're even saying the truth. Like, this is the interesting part about the world of Ice and Fire. That things that are actually interesting that impact the story are not there. So, like, the whole Empire of the Dawn thing has a lot of coverage because it's not going to affect anything. Like, Karth doesn't have a chapter, and the chapter on Bravos is really vague.
Yeah,
Fred
Well,
Targaryen. Can y'all hear me? Is my microphone muted?
yeah.
You're good.
Yeah, we can hear you.
He says, Order of the Green Hand, First Men Knights. I'm not sure what he's referencing.
Yeah, the order of the Green Hand. They
Yes,
have a
I
series
think
where they talk about
Hold on, Blood.
and Lies of the Andals. And like I usually, it was kind of like iffy on Order of the Green Hand because they try to depress too many things that like are pretty much almost solved, if not 90% solved. But I do like the Lie of the Andals thing because it does show like they glorify a lot of things that didn't make sense for the times. So like if you like I go back to the Florin the Fool and Jocko, like where they're talking about tales of
Irene.
chivalry. There's no such thing as tales of chivalry with the first men because they didn't have knights. So it's like whoever are the winners in wars are gonna make the history be biased towards them. You know what I mean? It's like when we learn in school history about, say, World War II. You know, we hear all these nasty tales about Germany and the Nazis. You
Mostly
know, but
because
if it
the
was the
Nazis were
other way
horrible people.
around, it would have been, you know, we would have been the bad guys. So whoever wins gets to write history. That's the
Absolutely.
thing.
I also want to just say, this is just a little bit of humor. You know, when Shay's always calling him Giant of a Lannister, she didn't have to be talking about his height necessarily. If y'all get what I'm
That's
saying.
manipulation.
She's talking about
Basically, Shay,
talking about how
basically
you're
Shay's
Yeah, well,
influencing and Varys
cerebral
hiding Shay.
dysplasia is a skeleton disorder. That's all. Just a skeleton thing.
right. You
Do
got that
what now?
tripod,
No.
that third leg going on.
May I come in here?
Yeah, hop
Go ahead.
in, blood.
Go
What you
ahead,
got?
So I was saying that she mentions again Shay, and the thing is, and my Giant of Lannister thing is probably that it's just for manipulation. What I mean is that thanks to Varys hiding Shay from the Lannisters in Tywin, Tyrion starts trusting more and more in Varys, which ends putting a lot of Aegon supporters in control of King's Landing, like Jocelyn Byward, the commander of the City Watch, before Tywin puts Marbrand.
So you're saying that Varys, only cozied up to Tyrion just to manipulate him later on and make things easy and an easy path so that Aegon can come in and rule. That's what you're saying. He was
Yeah,
just being
basically he's
manipulated by
basically
everything and
turning the gold
everyone.
cloaks against the Lannisters.
Yeah, okay. And I can kind of see that now that you point that out.
Yeah, because Tyrion only finds Shay because of Bran, and he only finds Bran because he ends up in the Inn of the Kneeling Man, and like that end that takes him captured, but he only ends there because of Jorin.
Mm-hmm.
And when Jorin comes to King's Landing to tell Ned about it, Varys knows before Ned.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, Varys, is very underestimated.
I'll be right back.
Show. Yeah, he's very underestimated in the show, but he's certainly more influential in the books than we give him credit for. And I think that's a very good point that you bring up. I mean, now that I think about it, go ahead, Sarah. Go ahead, Sarah.
Who's the gentleman? Sorry, sir. Who's just speaking? Tell me your name again. Are you Bran?
Bloodware.
Bloodware.
Blood. It's called me Blood.
Call him Bran.
Blood.
Blood.
Up, Blood. Are you? I'm a big Preston Jacobs fan. Are you a Preston Jacobs fan?
Of course.
Not really. Not really.
That are like
me and him agree, but we're not a fan of him.
Of Varys, or not Jory. I'm sorry. Yoren. Yoren is an agent of Varys. Yeah, I'm here. I don't know.
No, the thing is that me and Preston tend to agree on a lot of things, but I'm not his fan. You get me?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, what?
No, we tend to agree on a lot of things, but I'm not his fan.
Sure. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm a fan. I mean,
I'm a fan.
I know.
I like
Mine's of Wolves and Robins.
Yeah, I mean, so do we want to keep talking about the chapter?
Yeah, we kind of did get off of the subject.
Yeah, let's go on with the chapter if we can. Did you have something particular you wanted to point out, Sarah?
I love Tyrion. I love Tyrion out of his element. I think he's doing. Yes, I know he's called a giant here. Shay calls him a giant. Shay may or may not be an agent of Varys.
It is.
I like John. I always like point of view people who are seen through other point of view people. I don't know if that makes sense, but like John has a point of view chapter. And Tyrion has a point of view chapter, and then I like hearing Tyrion talking about Jon and just like how sad Jon is to see Tyrion leave, because I think he's like, oh, another like noble outsider is leaving. And you know, Tyrion asks, do you have anything? I'm gonna stop at Winterfell on my way back. Do you have anything that you want me to say? And it's just so sweet. He's like,
basically, tell Robert.
Tell
Basically,
John
what?
Blood. Hold on 1 second. Let her finish, please.
Oh, sorry. So Rickon won't understand why I'm leaving, but tell him he can have all my stuff. Tell Rob he might as well melt down all his swords because I'm gonna protect him up here. And he doesn't even know what to say to Bran, and he says Jon says, you help me with something, and you know, with words. And Jon says, well, help Bran with words. And I love the crippled bastards and broken things. Tyrion brings the saddle that allows Bran to ride. I don't know. I'm just trying to talk about the chapter. I love all the theories about conspiracies and stuff, but that's just sort of what I took out of the chapter specifically.
Tony, you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was gonna say like that's I think I like the most about like Tyrion and Jon's interaction, because of all the people, like Jon has this like naive like outlook on the wall and the Night's Watch, and Tyrion, even though he has a slick tongue and he's constantly, you know, making japes, he's the only one that tells Jon like straight up what you're getting yourself into. Benjen doesn't tell him. His you know, who he thinks is his dad, Ned, doesn't tell him. Like nobody tells him that you're going to a glorified penal colony for rapists and robbers. He thinks it's still this, you know, glorified watch that was from, you know, 1,000 years ago. And Tyrion, being who he is, might be slick-mouthed and ready to make japes. He's the only one that keeps it real with Jon. And I think Jon really, you know, he really, you know, it takes that in and saying like, you know, he might be called a dwarf, half man. People might make fun of him, but he was the only, and the Lannisters are known for what they're known for, but he was the only one that kept it real with Jon from day one. And he tells him how, you know, to use your bastard, you know, crippled, like Sarah said, crippled bastards and broken things. If you use it like armor, nobody can use it against you. And from that point on until telling him about everything he's got in store for him at the wall. And I do think that's one of the things that are going to parallel with the show. Like when you see Jon and Tyrion meet again, and they recall the first times they talk, you know, and they have that little joke between them and shake hands. I do think the book is going to come to that interaction again between Jon and Tyrion, because there was just too much of a intimate, you know, interaction between the two. They spent a lot of time on that journey to the wall, and then Tyrion was the only one, you know, this Lannister that from a family that nobody in the North trusts. He was the only one that kept it real with Jon. And I think Jon held that, you know, close to his heart, because everybody else, nobody told him. His own family didn't tell him what he had in store.
I also
go ahead.
That they both might secretly, well, we know Jon is basically a Targaryen, but the idea that they're both secretly Targaryen up there too. They have this like kinship. I'm sorry, we're going out of rotation. I just wanted to throw.
You're fine.
Go ahead. Blood.
Yeah, I was saying.
Yeah,
the thing I was saying is that when he said about Jon and Tyrion meeting back, I had a bunch of things to mention. A, maybe not because Jon's kind of dead. B, Jon's probably not a Targaryen. Don't ask me about that. I have a theory about it. Really long. You'll
have to do that separately.
And see, the thing about Benjen not telling Jon about the wall, he kind of tried to do it and convince him not to go, but somehow he tells Jon about that Jon shouldn't go, right?
It's very vague. He tells him, you don't know what you're missing out on. That's like saying, you know, you can win the lottery. That don't mean that, you know, he doesn't tell him, hey, you might be a Targaryen and be next in line for the throne. He should have been more upfront with him instead of, hey, you don't know what you're missing out on. That's pretty vague.
No, but the thing is that Benjen wasn't going to tell Ned and just keep Jon in Winterfell without no one knowing. But then Lewin tells Ned that Benjen told him that he wanted to bring Jon to the wall. So is Lewin lying?
So what are you arguing? Just so I can be clear.
Yeah.
Basically, Lewin lies to Ned about Benjen wanting Jon to go to the wall. Basically,
He doesn't say Benjen wants him to. He said Jon wants to.
But Lewin also claims that was Benjen's idea.
So why would
No, it's a.
want Jon to go to the wall?
John's idea.
It was Jon's idea. Benjen took
No,
it to Lewin, not Ned.
But it's what Lewin tells Ned.
No,
Yeah.
he tells him that Jon wanted to, and that Benjen brought it to Lewin, and Lewin took it to Ned.
And Lewin
Benjen didn't take it.
Yeah, Lewin knowing how Catelyn feels about Jon, Lewin's probably thinking that's the best place for him if Ned's leaving for King's Landing. Everybody in that whole Winterfell knows how Catelyn can't stand him. So why would you leave, your bastard son that you ain't even gonna be there to be, his backbone for? And then you got Catelyn. You could tell how. And then now the things with Bran, it even ramps it up more how she can't stand him. Benjen, I just don't like how Benjen, being his uncle, tells him, "Oh, well, you don't know what you're giving up." That to me doesn't really, it doesn't say, all right, you shouldn't join the wall because, your outlook on this, honorable place that it used to be 1,000 to 8,000 years ago is nothing but a penal colony for rapists and poachers. So you think you're going up here and you're stopping all this, these 10,000 to 100,000 wildlings that keep raiding the north, which isn't true. You get a couple that get past and raid Last Hearth and Carhold. Like it's not what it used to be. And Jon, that's where Jon parallels Sansa. Because Sansa thinks that, going south, you're going to meet all these chivalrous knights that are going to treat you like a lady. And
they'll be a bunch of rapists.
That Jon it has the same thing as Sansa has, just in another direction. Mm-hmm. And then it takes somebody like Tyrion that ain't even on the wall and isn't his family to tell him how it really is. And that's why I feel so bad about Jon. His own family didn't say anything. Like, his own family said, look, you don't know what you're... Even if they're trying to hide back the part that he's part Targaryen, that he's Rhaegar's son, that don't even have to be put out there. Like, why would you let this boy, go up there to give your life to that? And like most people get sent there for a reason, and this boy wants to up and give his life for that. If that was my nephew, I'm sorry, I couldn't sit back and be like, you know what, here, you're going up and doing a noble thing. The hell with that.
So I have something to say about that. One of the first things that King Robert asked for after seeing the crypts, he asked to see Lyanna, and then he was like, let's go look at this bastard of yours. And I'm inclined to believe that Benjen does know that Lyanna was.
Can I comment?
Oh yeah, 100%.
So I mean, again, it's a dick move, but I mean, maybe he really did think it was like the safest place for him.
I agree with you 100%. Like, I think there's no way that Ned wouldn't have trusted Benjen with that. Like, you come back with this thing, everybody knows how Ned is, and then you come back to Winterfell with this bastard, and Benjen knowing how his older brother is, and then not entrusting his, brother with this. I think a lot, like, I always had theories about Benjen joining the wall, just joining the Night's Watch, just for the fact that if he could take that with him there and doesn't have to worry about it, because, you're not going to have a bunch of people meddling in.
I think Benjen and Lyanna actually had it set up where Benjen was going to take Jon as his bastard or his son, and they were going to go to the wall as protection.
There's so much possibility. Is crazy. Like, and I just don't see them, the Stark siblings, like keeping Jon and who he was out of the family, at least. Like, I could see. All right, we know Lyanna dies childbirth. So you have Ned and Benjen. I can't see Ned not letting Benjen know. And then, like, yeah, it's like Sarah. I agree with Sarah. It's a dick move on Benjen's part. but I can understand in a way why Benjamin maybe wouldn't want to tell John that, because if he knew, because it kind of is like a vague reference when he says to John, like, you don't know what you're giving up. It's like he wants to tell him, but he can't.
May I speak now?
Go ahead, Blood.
Okay, and I have a question, Blood, from the panel.
Jennifer, please hold on. Blood, if you have a comment, go ahead and say it.
No, what I was going to say that about Benjamin and the watch. Benjamin didn't want to bring John to the wall. And then only thinks of John as a bastard when he's with Robert's bastards. So I don't think it's nothing special about John. If there's anything, I'll say his mother's probably a Chardane. As it will explain why Kat and Lauren were scheming to send him to the wall.
Because
But I have a question for you from the chat here. People want you to explain. Several people in the chat want you to explain why you think Maester Lewin wanted John at the wall.
Well, if my theory is right, John is the son of Brandon and Ashara Dane. Brandon being Ned's older brother. So I have the question: who comes first, Brandon's trueborn grandson, who's son of a bastard, or Ned's trueborn son? Who comes first in the line of succession?
Brandon's kids come first because
his son is a bastard.
Pureborns come before bastards, no matter if they're or whatever. How Aegon the Fourth raised his bastards.
Dance of the Dragon, like Catelyn wants him gone because she knows that a bastard can usurp a trueborn claim.
It's not John that's the threat. It's not John that's the threat. It's his children. They can have a legitimate claim. John really has no claim. It's his children.
Exactly. He's trying for John to don't have kids. See, Brandon is older than Ned, so that basically means that Brandon's grandsons will come before Ned's sons, even if they're from Brandon's master's son.
No, it stays in the direct line. If for some reason Ned's sons die out, then it would go to John. But him being on not Ned's son, Ned is the Lord, so his sons will get over his brothers.
Yeah, but Brandon's the older brother.
They would come after us. It doesn't matter. He's still a baseborn, and Ned is the Lord, not Brandon.
No, but Brandon was the heir. So in the other could press the claim. That's basically why Kat was trying to get rid of John.
It doesn't matter. He's the baseborn. He's baseborn, even if it is Brandon's son. He's still a bastard. Ashara and Brandon were not together.
A bastard is not a pureborn goes over a bastard no matter if he's first or not.
Right.
The thing is, if John has a kid and he's trueborn, will he be considered a Stark or not?
Even if he is, he still after Ned's kids, because Ned is the Lord. His kids come first. When they die out, then it would go to Brandon. If he was Brandon's son.
But take it a step upward. Let's talk about Rickard Stark. He has 3 sons. If his older son had a son who's a bastard, he doesn't inherit. But if that son had a grandson, he will inherit before the second son.
No.
So who comes first?
No, he won't, because it's from a baseborn line. It would be Ned. If Benjen had kids, it would come before John. If John were Brandon's son and a bastard, Benjen would, because he's got pure blood. They're pure blood. They're pure.
The depiction that you look at the Blackfire Rebellion, that was the whole reason it was fought, because Daemon Blackfire was born before Darren.
Not really. Darren was older than Daemon Blackfire.
So Daemon thought that he was your rightful because he was inherited. He was born first, and he was actually, even though he was a bastard, he still was born by 2 Targaryens. So, like, he thought that his claim still, there was, if it was really that big of a claim, more people would have came behind their cause. And but even though they had enough behind, they didn't have enough, and they still, even though all the things that were said about Darren being, not of, his dad and his wife and all that, there was still enough. He
wasn't the warrior everyone wanted to follow.
Exactly.
No, but the thing is, even Daemon Blackfire being a bastard, he could raise half a kingdom, and that's the thing.
But it wasn't enough.
it was a close shot. If Daemon hadn't been killed by Bloodware,
he had a couple
the battle would
high,
have been his.
he had no Lord Paramounts in his favor.
But
So-
there's so much
Anybody
more
could be
lords.
king. Anybody
Right.
could be king if they have the backing.
Robert showed that. Robert used to claim that Rhaela Targaryen, his grandmother, gave him claim to the throne. So it's all who has the biggest sword and the biggest army when it comes down to that.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yep.
In the battle of
That's why
Rick Westfield,
Cersei's the rightful.
Yeah.
That's why Cersei is the rightful ruler, because she took it by conquest, and she
Conquest.
is the ruler by conquest.
Dragons and takes it back. You know, it's going to be whoever's the more powerful army.
The thing is,
Like
from
not
Rick Westfield, from the battle of
Wait, so who's that in the background, Sarah? Is that
Sarah.
you?
yeah, I'm
Yeah. What was,
said possession is 9/10 of the law, or is that the same?
Yeah, it is.
basically, that's
That's correct. But it's usually
Jen-
for drugs.
Jen. You weigh in on what you took from the. Damn it,
Oh, shit.
Dad, I'm gonna need you
Jim.
to-
Why don't you weigh in on what you got from the chapter?
I love
Come
it.
on now.
What?
I love Jen.
You're excited. I get it. Okay. But let me just say this right now. It's going to go primogeniture. And, you know, it's not so much what is, but what you can prove. And then we can also go by conquest. And
Mhm.
see that. Okay.
And Misha,
Yes, I have a point, you know, going different from the direction that we're in. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Lannister family themselves and King Robert. Now, in the chapter, the old bear is earnestly and honestly asking him for help. He says that your sister is the queen. You have the ear of the king. Your father is the greatest lord of the realm, and your
Sister is
brother is a
queen.
great knight. Your brother is a great knight, and he's asking them, go and talk to them for me. But Tyrion has a thought on the royal family. He says he left the rest unsaid, that King Robert would ignore him. Lord Tywin would ask him if
somebody's got some doggies.
Lord Tywin would ask him if he'd taken leave of his senses, and Jaime would only laugh. I think that's a wonderful window into the royal family, and they was absolutely right about that, because King Robert is the kind of person who is very ignorant. He ignored that entire situation, you know, the mess on the King's Road, because he didn't want to be bothered with it. Lord Tywin is said to be very condescending and, you know, uninterested in anything that doesn't directly have to do with him. And Jaime was said to would only laugh, and I think that's true as well, because Jaime is, at this point of the story, is very flippant. So I think that's a very lovely window, a little subtle window into our royal family, our great, and the fact that Tyrion didn't even pass a thought on Cersei. So I mean, I think that that is a very beautiful and clear window into the kind of rulers that we have here in our story. Robert
I
is
mean,
ignorant.
compared to everybody else, Robert at least can keep that
Nice
peace.
point. Blood, hold on, Blood. Hold on, Blood. Let her finish, please.
Yes, thank you. Robert is very ignorant, a very ignorant type of king, and that will make him very irresponsible. Lord Tywin is the greatest ruler of the land, but he's so condescending, you know, towards the people. And Jaime, you know, thinks that everything is funny. You know, he's very flippant and callous. So that really shows a good window into the kind of rulers that we have here. And I think it also shows how naive the Starks are and how wrong the Starks were for getting involved with the Lannisters in the first place. Right in the beginning of the book, when Robert showed up, he was talking about how beautiful and how plentiful the reach was. And as I said before, maybe there should have been some sort of a marriage between you know, the Reach instead of some kind of marriage with the Lannisters. That's the big thing that I saw, you know, that popped out in the storyline. I mean,
I mean,
Hold on.
and I'm pretty much it. That's pretty much all I had to say about that.
yeah, and I think with like the Crown's alliance with the Reach, they were forced to stop that alliance mostly because the capital was held by the Lannisters, and the Reach were fighting for Aerys.
Yeah, I mean,
Basically, Robert needs to give the line to whoever is supporting him.
Yeah, and I just think it was so wrong for them to get involved with the Lannisters when there was another family out there that could have been a better, you know, a better companion to the Starks instead of the Lannisters. The Lannisters were just crap, you know.
Bishop.
But yeah,
I think it's basically the Lannisters forced themselves into that alliance by sacking King's Landing. Basically, Robert had to either A, lose all his army in the battle, and let the Richards just kick his ass from the back and receive Viserys or any Targaryen on the throne, or accept the Lannisters and make peace right there. Remember, when he approves the marriage to Cersei, the Tyrells were still in open rebellion.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Does anyone have anything to say, you know, in the rotation? Who's next in the rotation?
Sarah, you got anything else?
Yeah, Sarah and Tony. What do you have anything else to say about, you know, about what I brought up or about anything else?
Just thinking about the chapter, I like thinking about how, again, I'm going to say what I said before, I'm sorry, but in the prologue, we see that the others are very real. They're very much happening, and we're getting reports of it, and we just hear how it's being dismissed by the realm. We get some foreshadowing, maybe in terms of like, oh, my giant of Lannister, or maybe he's the giant that Morkio is referring to, or maybe he's the giant that gets slayed by the maiden with serpents in her hair. Every chapter in Game of Thrones, the first novel, I feel like just is so interesting in the context of having read all of the books, because there's so much laid out in terms of foreshadowing what's to come. So that's good about it.
Okay, Tony.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add to that. I mean, I agree with what you and Sarah said. I mean, pretty much covered most. I mean, this chapter is really not that in depth. I mean, other than like, you know, the rantings of Tyrion and Alistair Thorne, you know, but I mean, we pretty much, I think we pretty much covered, you know, what was,
yeah, we covered everything up.
Okay, are there any questions in the chat? If you have any questions, please put them up right now. Please put your questions in the chat. Brandon, do you have anything?
I'm trying to remember what all happened when he was talking to John. Something that caught my attention is he just chose to go west, and that's just happened to be where John was, and he immediately knew it was John before. I mean, seeing Ghost, I guess he just heard his voice and knew it was John. We don't normally see that happen usually, just automatically knowing who it is. And then he asked if he could pet Ghost, and he said, as long as I'm here, he won't chew your hand off, that sort of thing. But it seemed like things just playing out the way coincidental, I guess, is the word I'm looking for. Just awfully coincidental that he just happened to choose to go left, and that just happened to be where John was at. But it also builds to the story, and then we get mentioned that if Benjen's lost, which Tyrion already knows Benjen's lost because Mormont had just told him that, and you notice that he doesn't tell John that Benjen's gone, or that he's missing. But Tyrion does know that he's missing, but he doesn't tell John.
Yes. Well, any questions in the chat, please put your questions up now. We're discussing
Tyrion 3.
We're discussing Tyrion 3 here. House Sanchez. Is that you, Bloodware?
No.
Yeah, the same
John
one from
Kennedy.
the same one from the
Sanchez is
original.
different.
Yeah.
Sanchez.
Kennedy. Sarah, I think you have a question. So true, Sarah. How does George R. Martin do it?
Do what? I'm sorry.
Money G has a comment, and you're mentioned in the comments.
Uh-oh.
She says, "So true, Sarah. How does George R. R. Martin do it? Do it." So.
Do what?
I'm assuming. Hey, Money. What exactly are you talking about?
I'm sorry. I'm very basic. You got to break it down for me.
Tyrion is just a strange and very interesting character. I think he really kind of found that he found a little bit of fellowship in the Night's Watch, and even though he wanted to help them, I don't think that his family ever would.
I don't think so. I don't think so either. Mm-hmm. I have a random question. Reading this, does anyone get sentimental about eating crabs with like a group of people?
Nope.
No? I don't
really
like crabs that much, but if someone's like, yo, we're gonna get a bushel of crabs, I get very excited because it's like a group of people that all gets together around a table and there's like usually drinking and socializing, and I just think of, I don't know,
a clam bake.
Feelings about this.
You got them big females or them male crabs?
I don't know, Ireland. Whatever happens to what we harvest in Chesapeake Bay.
What are you doing back there?
With a crab fork.
Oh.
All right.
Okay.
Moni, with all his foreshadowing in the books, he says, I'm not one of the people who's like studied every interview he's ever done, but he says that he's more of a planter, like than an architect.
Gardener.
He's a gardener. Thank you, gardener. Evidence that I really don't know that much of what I'm talking about. But yeah, more of a gardener than an architect. So like, plants these seeds, he can go revisit them when he wants to. Other ones he just leaves us to torture us with. I'm gonna turn it off.
Yeah, George R. R. Martin doesn't give it all away. And I appreciate that for him. I appreciate that. I don't want the story given away just yet.
I want to see here in the shot.
He's cultivated such a massive following by planting all these seeds. So whatever he's doing, I'm buying it.
Me too. And I understand, Sarah, you said that you were a big fan of Preston Jacobs. Well, I am too. I have read some of his theories, and I can really see some of that stuff happening in the books later on. Bran.
Yes.
Yeah, like
are you awake, Bran?
Yeah, I'm awake.
Cause I think you're dozing off back there.
I'm in the chat.
Oh, okay, because I thought I heard some snoring there.
Yeah, well, you might hear in a minute because it's past my bedtime.
I'm just seeing a couple.
Where are you located? It's past my bedtime too. Where are you located?
Me, it's 10:30.
I'm located in Florida.
I'm in Texas.
For East Coast, so it's like 11:30. It's way past my.
It's 11:30.
Okay.
I stay up late.
2, 3.
Yeah, I get up at 4 and 5 in the morning every morning.
Blood, where are you?
Brandon.
You're from London?
Yeah.
Blood, you're in London. Like London, England?
Man.
No, Blood's in Florida too.
Oh, Blood
Florida
too.
Oh, okay. I thought you were from London, from England. Wow.
Like what?
I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. Anyone wants to give their final thoughts, and we can go ahead and end this since it's bedtime.
Well,
I guess thoughts about the chapter.
Really, we don't get a whole lot of plot in the chapter, but we do get to see a lot of characters' prickly personality. We see Mormont, he's in command, but at the same time, he knows he's in need. You get to see Tyrion, how he's the jokester,
but at the same time, he understands that, you know, there is need above himself. You know, that he does hear Mormont and what he's asking. You see, John, you kind of see the boy in John wanting to send back messages, kind of brag to Rob, but at the same time, he's grown into the person that he is. Because actually, that's something we didn't touch on. He's teaching Grin how to be a better warrior and fighter. He's picked up Pip now that he's starting to teach him too. You see the camaraderie starting to build inside the younger members. Yeah, what's up, Blood?
It's interesting that you mentioned Grin and Pip because him and them two and John make a really cool combination. I don't think it's like foreshadowing anything, but John is like this talented swordsman, right? Who had like this special sword. Grin is said to be like a bull, and Pep seems to be like a bat.
Yeah, an ox.
Does that remind you of someone of something?
Well,
Hey, I'm gonna I need to go ahead and get off here because I got to work in the morning
okay.
Okay, Tony.
on the East
I think
Coast.
we're wrapping it up anyway.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. Tony, do your outro, please.
All right,
Yeah.
If
Tony.
if you're leaving as well, you can.
Yeah, Tony Umber. You check my YouTube page. I usually do gaming videos that are of Game of Thrones at mine. Usually Game of Thrones modded games, but I haven't been doing much of late because being an adult is kind of taking precedence over YouTube. So you know what I mean. So I haven't really been that active. Yeah, so I mean, other than that, I mean, like catching a live stream, I try to make it to this every Thursday. I mean, I might not make it every week, but I try. I really do. So I just want to say thank you, Misha, Jen, for inviting me in the first place back months and months ago when we first caught up. Bran, I always love when you put up new blogs. I always try to keep them right when you put them out. So,
Thank you, bro.
Keep them coming,
What
bro.
you doing, bro?
We put a lot of work into them, and they are great, dude. So keep them coming.
Thank you.
Well, have a good night, Tony. And
Yes, sir.
Hey,
are
Tony.
you gonna be leaving too, Sarah, as well?
He sure is.
Yeah, I don't think thank you for having me. This was great discussion. I feel like I met 2 new people this evening. So thank you, gentlemen, and I hope to catch you later.
Well, I'll be here every week, Sarah. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And I think we're gonna go ahead and end it for tonight. Ended a little bit earlier than usual. Go ahead, Jennifer. You want to do your outro?
Thanks, Sarah and Tony. It's always good when y'all are here. Bran, do you have poison ivy? Are you scrambling?
No. My bad.
That's all right. You just
I'm dirty from work.
okay. It's fine. It's fine. I didn't know if you was opening a butterscotch or scratching yourself like crazy.
I was using my ID to scratch my arm because I'm covered in dirt still.
No problem.
Well, maybe it's time to take a bath now.
Oh, well, that's next on the list.
Be like urine. I'm just so glad, everybody. I had a really good time, and I enjoyed watching the chat tonight. And just thanks, everybody. It was fun.
Always is. Blood, go ahead.
Oh yeah, thanks for inviting me here. Hopefully it's not the last one. Thanks for inviting me here. I'm sorry to be here. The chapter wasn't that big in plot or foreshadowing. I kind of got like a page and a half of theory from it. But one little thing about it, it was thanks for I'm here. Blood out. Remember, check my channel. Just click at my icon. Just look up Bloodware. It's going to be the first thing you find. Thanks for being here, guys. Thanks for inviting me here.
Thank you so much, Bloodware, for joining us tonight, and you can come back anytime you like, okay? I want to give a shout out to Jules Elizabeth, Stacy Smith, Fred, Targaryen's uncle's daddy, Money G. Hey Money, how you doing? Anyone else? I'm scrolling up through here. And all of the
Cammy,
and Cammy, thank you so much, Cammy, for
House
joining us.
Sanchez,
Yeah, House Sanchez,
Felicia.
Blood. Felicia, thank you so much, Felicia, for joining us tonight. Except Shayna Sapphires, thank you as well. I want to say that the next chapter is Arya. Arya. I think I might go ahead and do Arya. I enjoy doing Arya's chapters. So I'll go
I'm
ahead
gonna
and do Arya for next week. What is
I'm
it?
gonna talk to a girl is and see if she might be interested in coming for that one. She loves Arya, so
Okay. That'll be fine. That'll be totally fine. Um, yeah, I'll be doing Arya for next week. I think she's her time in King's Landing and how she feels about being there. My name is Misha Houston. You can check me out on YouTube under Misha Houston, under Facebook under Misha Houston, under Instagram under Misha_Houston, and under the Capcom Fighters Network under Misha 3700. Um, that was our live stream for tonight. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you to all the members of the panel. And thank you to all the people of the chat. Thank you so much for joining us. And come back next week on Thursday at 9 p.m. Central. And we'll be discussing Arya, the next chapter of the book. Thank you all so much. And have a wonderful, wonderful night. Bye-bye, everybody.